You want to become a millionaire, right? Well, the thing is, if you want to do that, you have to learn how to properly scale a team. Well, these are the 7 stages required that will show you how to replicate the exact same steps I took to generate over $100 million in sales and build a team of A players. You see, it's one thing to make over $100,000 a month with a handful of employees, but scaling to $2 million a month is a whole other machine. This will unlock a whole new level of life that you didn't even know existed, and that's not just because of the money, but because of the person you will have to become to get there. I mean, take it from me. I made my first $1 million at the age of 27, and it started with my very first hire, my brother, Benson. The biggest mistake most people make is either hiring too early or hiring the wrong person. That's not to say you can't build a great team if you hire the wrong position or you hire too early, but it does mean it's gonna take away from some of the profit that you can inject back into the business. In 2018, I needed to make my first hire. I just scaled past $20,000 months. I needed to leverage my time to increase sales and smash through marketing. My first ever hire was my brother Benson. He was driven, he loved the gym, he loved football. We had both played at the Division I level, and he grew up in the same household as I did with my father, who instilled a very rigorous work ethic into our lives. I remember the day I hired him, it felt like yesterday. So me and Benson went to live in South Carolina in a small apartment together and continued to sell security alarms for a security company called Alder. Now, just a few weeks prior, my business had finally started taking off, and so Benson actually had to start knocking by himself. On this particular day, Benson walked through the door, and I can tell immediately from his face, he is completely dejected, demoralized. You could tell that the guy just got $1 million shoved in his face. And I look at him, and he just puts his back against the wall and slides down the wall slowly. And I look at him and say, dude, do you wanna get out of here? Do you wanna stop doing this? And he just looks at me and shakes his head, yes. And from there, I actually offered him a position to come work in my company, and then the rest is history. I originally hired Benson as a coach to handle all my fulfillment, and it took a little bit of time to show him the ropes, the systems, and the processes, but he was really hungry and really driven to learn and make money. Now, I love my brother, and he's one of the hardest workers I know, but looking back at this now, I would suggest, if you can, to go and find someone who has prior experience for the position you're trying to hire for. This speeds up the learning curve, and part of the process of finding A players is people who can come in and tell you what to do and not the other way around. In my case, I was new to business. I had no idea how to hire, how to train properly, even how to set up management or SOPs, but that's exactly why you're watching this video, so I can show you exactly what not to do. Now, in terms of what to pay, the safest thing is to pay per client if you're doing some type of fulfillment, or to pay on a commission basis if they're in sales. That way, if the business has a down month or you're in a slump, that you're not paying out more than the company makes. Now, in Benson's case, I paid him $100 per month per client, or $200 per month if he got an upgrade or a client to re-sign on the service. The goal is to make the business as safe as possible, so you want to avoid salary positions if you can. Later on down the road, as you get more advanced and experienced, people will demand salaries, but in the beginning, it makes the business really safe. This leads to the second stage of hiring, which will be one of the most important roles you can possibly have inside your business. This person is in the trenches every single day, and their sole priority and goal for you is to DM or call as many leads as possible and get your sales calendar booked. Now, what is this, you might ask? It's the setter. I hired my first setter, and her name was Kim. This was another example of hiring someone who didn't have a ton of direct experience, but was hungry to learn and make a lot of money. However, she did have prior sales experience, so if you can't find someone who has direct experience, meaning they've done exactly what you're trying to do, then find someone who has indirect experience, where in this case, someone who's been in sales, but they haven't done the exact type of sales that I was trying to accomplish. Anyone can send messages, but it takes a particular person to qualify the prospect, gain information, and then lead them down a path to book a sales call. Around the $20,000 to $30,000 mark a month is when this type of hiring should be done. Since this is one of the most important roles, this is not a time to offload the messaging to someone who can barely type. If your first line of defense is cracked, you're either gonna get destroyed by bad leads showing up on the calls, or you're not gonna get any calls at all. Both are gonna be super problematic in scaling your business. Luckily for myself, I was stacked with sales calls, and so there was only one direction I was heading. At this point, not only is my business scaling, but I'm starting to become a new person. I was learning how to become a better leader. Now, was I the best leader ever? Of course not. But it was the first step in scaling to 7 figures and beyond in less than 12 months. The second time you should hire a setter is when your first setter is getting overwhelmed by too many messages in the inbox or by working too many hours. This is typically around the $50,000 plus a month mark, where your first primary messenger will get moved into more of a managerial role in addition to their messaging, where your secondary messenger will come in and take on the overflow. Once we scaled past $100,000 a month, I brought in some new young blood. Now, this was another brother who came in to one of the most important and vital roles in the entire company: closing sales calls. I'll be honest at first, and he's gonna disagree with this story, but I'll be straight with you, he sucked. He was 60 to 90 days in and I was considering firing him, where he somehow magically turned the corner and started closing a lot of deals. And he went on to do millions of dollars in sales, and even later went on to lead one of my divisions as the president of that division. And he did a lot of great things for my company in terms of hiring, closing deals, managing setters and sales reps. He was the complete package. Gentry went on to work with me for over 5 years. It was an incredible experience, especially the fact that he was my brother. And now he went on to work as a sales manager in a 9-figure company where he built out a sales team of 40 plus reps. Now, in terms of pay for sales reps, it's very simple. I typically would recommend paying 10% commission, meaning that if they do $10,000 in collected sales, you would pay out $1,000 of commission. Now, a lot of people will freak out about bonuses and extra pay. I recommend keeping bonuses very minimal, especially in the beginning part of the company, because you never know what revenue or profit you're gonna need later on to continue to scale. So when you give bonuses, make sure that they're sparingly and you've thought them through, because when you're in the beginning of a company, let's say 100,000 a month, you have no idea what margins are gonna look like at $1 million a month. So in terms of sales reps, I typically would recommend 10% commission. If you have super high package deals, 30,000 plus, 60,000 plus, sometimes you can get away with 8 or 9% commission, but 10% is the industry standard. Now, before we continue talking about all the sunshines and rainbows because my business was crushing, let's go into one of my worst hires ever that cost me a ton in legal fees and wasted time. As my business grew, I needed help to handle the influx of clients that were coming in. And one of the easiest places to look is at your star students. And one of those star students approached me to come on and be a fulfillment coach, and I accepted. At first, everything was fine, but then he started asking for raises every 30 days. Plus, in addition to that, he wanted me to give him residuals for anything he created for my courses or my programs. That was not only against his contract, but it didn't make any sense because he was already on payroll, and that's when I started to get pretty upset. As an FYI, as a business owner, any employee or contractor who makes PDFs, materials, anything of that nature is legally yours, and so you never want to play that game. After a few months of back and forth of this, I finally cut him, and then he immediately went out and started creating and competing with a very similar offer. And at this time, I was very naive and inexperienced with how court proceedings work. So I sued him based on our non-compete, and I'll be honest with you guys, I was 100% out for blood. But when you're inexperienced and you've never been through court proceedings before, it's a little easy to get carried away by your emotions. Long story short, without making another 30-minute video, when all the dust settled, I was out another $100,000 from the legal proceedings. And what made it even worse is that the initial judgment from the judge got overruled after a preliminary hearing, which my lawyers at least said they'd never seen happen. And so what that taught me about court was that you can go in with the best contracts, with the best lawyers, but sometimes if the judge feels that what the contract deems is too severe or too harsh of a penalty, it will not be upheld. And so to give you another quick example, let's say that you had in an agreement that you could own one of your competitor's daughters, for example, and they would legally be yours. If that went to court, the judge would rule that it's too harsh and they didn't know what they were doing, and they would basically make the agreement invalid. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about court proceedings, and hopefully I can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars, is that the judges are going to do what they think is fair. So it doesn't matter what your agreement says. If they feel it is too harsh or too severe, you might as well just crumple it up and throw it in your toilet, because that's how much it's actually worth. And to make matters worse, all this ended up just being a massive distraction because this guy was never gonna compete with me at the same level or have any impact on my business and how effective it was. And instead of focusing on more money, I was focused on court proceedings and paying a bunch of lawyer fees. Ultimately, this is where most leaders are made. You face new fears and then you grow through each and every challenge. When the stakes get higher and your team faces major setbacks, it's your leadership that either holds them together or breaks them apart. The craziest part about all this, and this is a true story, is I was operating my entire business from Google Docs, PDFs, emails, and random links everywhere. I barely had any metrics or KPIs, and I needed a ton of operational help but I found it in the most unlikely of places. Around $300,000 a month, I wanted to start running ads on YouTube, so I asked my original OG mentor, my guy David Fry, on who I should hire. That's when I found my COO, Ben. Now, although originally he came on for YouTube ads, I saw he had more skills and experience that would make him more fitted to move into COO. This took a ton of operational stuff off my plate, such as building funnels, writing emails, coming up with marketing strategies, tech issues, the whole 9 yards that allowed me to move more into a CEO role where I could focus more on the vision and pushing sales. From $100,000 to $300,000 a month, all you're really doing is hiring more sales reps, setters, and coaches to handle the increase of leads and the demand on fulfillment. Once you get past $300,000 a month, you need to start looking for people to come in and run your C-suite. After $300,000 a month, I hired a full-time videographer and editor. This person followed me everywhere except the bathroom, but sometimes there too. Edited all my images, videos, made my organic content and paid content. This not only helps build your organic brand and following, but it helps you launch ads much faster, which at scale is going to be very important to your business's success. This role has now changed to a full-time content production manager who handles 12 to 15 editors in-house right now. This is also a very important hire because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. So if they're super weird or you find them super strange, it's not going to be a good fit. It's really important that you both get along well. And to date, I've had 4 different editors. Before hiring an in-house media buying team, I had originally hired an agency. Now the way it worked, I'm not gonna mention this guy's name, but he's actually very well known in the space, is he originally came on and was only running my ads, maybe a couple other people under the table, but he was supposed to only be running ads for me. Now, he took over my ads when I was spending about $20,000 a month and I just didn't have any more time and I needed someone who was really skilled and experienced to start doing it for me. Now, as we scaled past $500,000 a month, he wanted to go on and start doing his own thing, which he went on to start his own ad agency. And so because he'd been running my ads for the time prior, we essentially moved from a full-time employee into an ad agency. Now, at first, everything was fine, it was going smooth, but eventually he stopped running the ads himself and put one of his contractors or employees in place, and that's where things started to dip. And the downside of this is as you hire agencies, typically the CEO himself is not the one doing the work, it's gonna be his employees. And that's not always bad, but going from the CEO who was this guy and then getting his team to come in and replace him, we just didn't get the same results. When that switch happened, we were already over $1 million a month, which was super incredible. And so once we started to dip below that, we went ahead and replaced his agency with another in-house media buyer. So if I was gonna give you a recommendation on average, you always wanna have in-house over an agency because an agency is usually focusing on multiple clients, while an in-house media buyer is only focusing on you, which means the entire day they are focused on your copy, your funnels, your ads, your emails, doing everything they can to push up profit margin and increase revenue. So if you're gonna hire for this position, I would typically look for it around $20,000 a month in ad spend because at that point, you're gonna be so busy with other things in the business and you're gonna be making probably $80,000 plus a month, usually a 4x return, that you're gonna have other higher priorities that you wanna go and spend your time on. As you scale, most of your first hires who are A players are gonna move into managerial roles. Top setters will move into setter managers, top sales reps will move into sales managers, video editor might move into video manager, so on and so forth. The best path forward when you start hiring managers is to have SOPs and KPIs in place that list everything out in daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and even yearly SOPs. This makes sure your managers are on top of their A game, and if anyone ever comes into the business, they have an SOP sheet that they can go write down that will have videos, documentation of steps, and any resources like PDFs, emails, Google links that they need to know how to handle the position. So for example, let's say I'm a video manager and I have 5 editors underneath me. What I would want to do is first list out all the tasks at the top of the paper. Okay, once you list all those tasks out, you'll break it down into daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, just like I said before. And then you're going to start off by having a recorded video of that task. So let's say how to upload raw files to Google Drive. You would have a video showing exactly how to do that. And then underneath you'd have the steps, which would be shoot the video, take the footage, click on this link, upload it, right? So it might be 4 steps. And then underneath that, you'll have a resource link, which will have the resources to the Google Drive, might have the resource to a project management software. And so it's so simple that anyone can follow it, even if they've never worked inside your business before. The other benefit is as you start having managers, this is what makes business fun, is you gain leverage. So now instead of talking to 20 people, you only have to go to your managers for direct reports, and your managers are managing the people underneath them, which is how you create leverage with your time and how you can scale and make a lot of profit without doing a ton of work. These are the main stages that if you actually follow, will set you on a path to become a multimillionaire, build an 8-figure business, and even have a team as large as 100 people. The only thing that stands between you and that reality is you putting in the hard work and building out your team. If you're pumped to start scaling your team and want to dive deeper into each progressive stage, go ahead and give this video a like, subscribe, make sure to share it with another entrepreneur who really needs this information. I make these videos for you guys completely free so you can avoid the steps and mistakes that I made that I hope you don't make. Thank you guys so much for being in this video. I'll see you in the next one.